Hello, we are back.
Yes, like I said, we're going to have a couple things we're going to upload today. And this is another one that we're going to do. Welcome back to the next episode of A Conversation with Kely, episode who knows at this point. But we're not talking about a reality show for one, Sally. We're talking about something else that we did review the previous season together last year. So it only made sense, I think, for us to continue doing so for this season. Before we get into that, though, I am here with my lovely and beautiful co-host, Allie. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited to cover the season. And I've had a pretty chill day today, besides hanging out with Emily again, because I hung out with her the last couple nights. And it was really fun. And yeah, now I'm just chilling.
Fun times. But what are we reviewing today?
We are reviewing High School Musical, the musical series, season 3, which I am super stoked about.
Yes, I'm very excited to talk about this season. So I'm going to give my initial thoughts going into this season. I'm not going to lie to you. I was very skeptical going into this. Season 2, I was very mixed on. I remember in the review, I said I gave it a B-. I would honestly down that grade to a B to a C+ now. I think that there were a lot of things that worked within that season. I liked that it was more of an ensemble show. I liked that they tried to do a little bit more, but unfortunately, it's a season that was massively impacted by COVID. And Tim Federele actually did confirm that recently. He said that this finale of season 2 was supposed to end completely differently than it did. They were actually supposed to go to the Mankeys. There was going to be a whole performance there and things like that. But because of COVID, they had to cut it all off. And that's why it did end. That's why it ended the way that it did. So yeah, it's very unfortunate. I think there was a lot they could have done with that season, but I think it was pretty safe to say, I think a lot of people were with me on the fact that season 2 just wasn't as good. It didn't feel like the same show at points. It felt like there were a lot of things they wanted to do that they didn't get to. It sometimes felt a little too similar to season 1. They needed to make some changes for this season. So while I was very skeptical going into it because there was a lot that I think they needed to do in order to fully win me back, I was very happy to see that they were focusing on a much smaller group of characters this time around. They were shifting the focus to this summer camp, kind of telling a different kind of story. To me, it seemed like they were trying to do something different this season. And that was something I was very excited to hear about. Even cutting down on some of the cast characters, like Big Red and Seb, and most notably Nene, are not in this season nearly as much. And I actually thought that was a good thing heading into it, because I think you'll agree with me, there were too many characters last season. Too many characters, a lot that we didn't get to focus as much on. So I think them cutting things down definitely did.
Also with Olivia too, she is busy with her music career too.
Yeah, so
but I don't think she would ever leave for good, because it is her main.
Well, we'll get into that a little bit later. But those were my general expectations going in. I was very skeptical with how this was going to play out. Hearing that they were going to do Frozen, I thought was an interesting choice. I didn't know how that was really going to play out. But what were your expectations going into this season?
Going into the season, I definitely was a little skeptical because of season 2, but I also had a feeling it would be stronger because, after season 2, where it was kind of just not the best, I had a feeling that season 3 would be a little stronger, a little bit better. So I'm I feel like season 3 is gonna be way better. And just hopefully and also going into it, just focusing on a few characters was actually pretty good. It was a good storyline for this. And I think what they did is I feel like what they did with it is honestly really strong.
Yeah, and they were able to recognize that like they needed to change some things around because of COVID. Because Tim Federele basically said the reason the whole season's at a summer camp is because this was the safest way to get everybody in the same place, pretty much. Like, you know, they could only film there. They had to be kind of limited with locations, but in all honesty, I think it really paid off because, in my opinion, this is the best season yet. I really loved season 3 a lot. I think it is a huge improvement over season 2. It really reminds us what season 1 did well, but it also is kind of ushering in a new sort of era for the show that I'm very excited to see where the show is going to go from here. Because
I feel like that this season it was very consistent.
Oh, yeah, it was much more consistent than season 2 for sure. But we are going to get into full spoilers for this season just because I feel like that's the only way we can really talk about it. I do want to start off talking about some of the performances within the season. Like I said, there are fewer actors this season, so that we don't have as many characters to focus on. But once again, I do want to talk about really the main character of this season, which I'm happy to say we do have a main character this season, and that's Sofia Wylie as Gina. I think does give her best performance within the show yet, because Gina feels like she's been the most well-developed. Gina goes through a lot this season. She's a lot more confident. She's a lot more headstrong about what she wants to do. She's trying to pursue this relation with EJ. She's trying to get the lead in the musical. There's a lot of different things that she is going through this season. And I just think Wylie is just so good in this role. She's so likable. Gina has grown so much as a character, and you really see that throughout the season. I think Wylie has also really grown into the role. She was great in season 1, don't get me wrong, but I think as an actress, she really has just grown into this role very nicely. And I really like she ended up doing.
She's really grown up a lot because she was obviously so little, like in the first season.
Yeah, she was like 16, I think, when it started.
She's only the same age as my sister.
Yeah.
But so yeah, like she's really grown up a lot. So she's gotten way stronger as the seasons go on. And like her being the main character this season was amazing.
And it was the right decision, I think, because I think Gina's always been like, I think, the most consistent character. Let's also talk about, though, the person that I was very happy to see also get a big upgrade this season. And that's Matt Cornett, who plays EJ. Is the best he's ever been, I think, this season. We really get to see an EJ that is very much reflecting on things. You know, he's in a place in his life where he's about to graduate. He knows that he isn't really in high, you know, he's slowly venturing into adulthood, but he wants to try to relive those glory days for just a few more weeks. And with that said, there's a lot that he goes through as a character. A lot of people are being hard on EJ because of it. They don't understand a lot of what he's doing this season. I thought that he just did a really great job here. This feels like this is like the best EJ I think has ever been. Again, I feel like they've done a really good job of developing that character.
Like he didn't really have much of a story before, and this season he was the best like he's ever been, because he actually
season 2 he did. It was just like a lot of things very like understated.
He was just kind of like iffy season 2, but this season he had like a huge story that he was incredible with.
Yeah, he was really great this season. I really liked what he ended up doing. Julia Lester is also really great, always as Ashlyn. I always enjoy her on the show. We'll get a little bit more into her character, but some really interesting storylines for her this season that I wasn't quite expecting. She doesn't have nearly as much of a focus as she did in season 2, understandably, because
technically she was like the main in season 2.
I would say there wasn't really a main character in season 2. It was very much an ensemble show, but
she just had like a huge role.
Yeah, Ashlyn was definitely one of the biggest focuses in season 2. I do want to talk about someone that I do want to go ahead though and talk about Joshua Bassett as well. He is great this season. I think that they've really recognized what to do with Ricky as a character. He's not just moping around and acting like a man-child like in season 2. He's actually a lot more likable this time around. He's kind of like the guy that's just hyping everybody up. He's trying to make everybody feel better about themselves. He's trying
very
to
positive, upbeat.
Yeah, that's his entire role this season. I think this works for Ricky a lot more than this guy that's just always upset about everything, because that made him very unlikable last season. And I think Bassett just also does a great job. It felt like this was the most fun he's had in the entire show. I really like what he's done here. And I thought they did a good job of figuring out what to do with this character, because last season it felt like they literally had no idea what to do with him. And I think Bassett did some really great work as a result. Another character gets a big upgrade this season is Courtney. And because that Dara Reneé really gets a chance to shine here. She has a fantastic story this season based around like her anxiety and things like that. And
like it was just her storyline was very important.
Yeah, she does a really good job, I think, with showing this very realistic portrayal of it. I really liked what they ended up doing with her. I thought that she definitely, you know, Courtney's always been a character I've enjoyed, but I've never felt like they've done enough with her. She's another character where it's like she's not really getting her full potential. This season, I think she got it, and I really liked what they ended up doing with her as a result. I think she was a very big standout for me. But aside from those characters, and also, you know, I think everyone does do a really good job this season. I think all of the actors are really strong. You know, and Frankie Rodriguez is always good as Carlos. I would say he probably had the least to do out of everyone.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he definitely had stuff to do. He just was.
I wouldn't say he was in any way like underwritten. He's just doesn't have as much going on as everybody else.
Like at times, he was just kind of like there, like just there for his friends and stuff.
Yeah. And I think he serves that role very nicely, very much like the comedic relief at points. I always really enjoy Carlos on this show.
He is hilarious.
But in addition to our original cast, we have two new cast members here, and both of them are fantastic. I do first want to talk about Saylor Bell Curda, who is playing the character of Maddox, who I didn't really know how to feel about at first. I will be honest. We'll talk about more about that with the writing, but I thought she was great this season. She is a character you're very intrigued by, and when you start to dig deeper into what's really going on with her and her whole past of sorts, she really becomes a character I think that you sympathize with, and I think she's a character that you really do find yourself latching onto. You know, Camp Shallow Lake has mental.
Yeah, she's definitely someone that you can really draw to.
Yeah, Camp Shallow Lake has always like meant a lot to her, and you really do get to see that throughout this season. I really enjoyed her a lot, but I gotta say, Adrian Lyles might have been one of the biggest standouts for me this season. He comes in as Jets, and immediately when he comes into the season, my thought was, why hasn't this guy been here all along? Because he is fucking incredible this season. He's very aloof when he starts off. And he's very stoic, but as the season starts to progress and we start to realize a lot of what's going on with him and why he feels the way that he does, he really ended up being, I think, one of the biggest standouts of the show. And I think I can confidently say Jet is probably one of my favorite characters now within the show. I really enjoyed what he ended up doing. Really, just this whole ensemble is great. There's a lot of smaller roles this season.
Both like Maddox and Jet, they're both like in real life, they are just have so much chemistry with the cast, and they really fit in.
Yeah, they fit in very nicely. I was worried how they were, you know, there's always the worry when you have new characters, how are they going to fit in? But I thought they did as much as they needed to with both of them. The role that Lily was supposed to have last season is the role that Maddox and Jet have. I thought that they fit in very nicely here. And I really liked what they ended up doing with both of them. We do have some other characters that aren't as big of a role this season, but I do think are standouts. Meg Donnelly, I really did enjoy this season as well.
It was funny. I actually didn't realize it was Meg Donnelly from Zombies until like recently.
Yeah, that was Meg Donnelly.
I was like, wait, she looks so familiar. I didn't even realize.
Oh, I thought you knew that.
No, but I thought she was some other girl.
Yeah, she's in this season. I thought that she did good. She did a good job for what she had. Jason Earls plays a smaller role here. Nothing really of that to note. He plays a much more smaller role than I think was anticipated. I kind of wish they didn't announce that he was in this season because he doesn't. really do much.
He was just kind of like comedic and just there.
Yeah, he's like, they cut back to him every so often. He's like kind of like the jaded counselor, but that's kind of all he does. But I gotta say, I think one of the biggest standouts for me this season was Corbin Bleu. Inclusion of Corbin Bleu this season, they just did a great job with him. I thought at first that he wasn't going to be in the show that much, but I think he was in it just enough. What I like about Corbin Bleu,
I thought it was so funny how he was just like this cocky counselor.
Yeah, what I liked about him this season is that, well, he's not a counselor. He's not a counselor. He's hosting he's directing the documentary
not the counselor.
that they're going to be a part of. But what I liked about Corbin Bleu's inclusion this season is they knew when to use him. They never tried to overuse him this season. They didn't really try to milk him that much. He is playing a much more heightened sort of, much more pompous version of himself. And I thought it worked really well. This is someone who, he doesn't want anything to do with High School Musical whatsoever. He is this very stuck up, celebrity of sorts. And I thought he did a really good job here. He was a really fun addition. And I honestly hope we do get to see more of him moving forward, which it seems like we're going to. So I'm excited to see what he does do moving forward. I thought he fit in very nicely.
I thought he really like blended well with the show. And then with Jason Earls, like I thought he was good, but he just was very underused.
Yeah,
I honestly liked
Corbin Bleu. They used just enough.
I thought Val was good. Like she was a little underused, but she was also like such a good friend to EJ.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about more when it comes to the writing. But I think overall, all of the acting was really strong here this season. I thought there were some really great performances. This is probably some of the best performances that we've had yet from these actors. Everyone just seems like they fit in very nicely. And I think having that smaller ensemble really just gave us a chance to get to see the chemistry between all these actors. They've always worked so well together, and I think you really get to see more of that this season, and that's something I really did appreciate. With that said, though, let's get more into the writing, which this is where we do delve into spoilers here. First thing I want to talk about. I said this, I was having a conversation with my mom actually, because I was talking to her about what season 4 is going to be. And she said, "Oh, I'm not caught up." She didn't even know that season 3 was going on. And I pretty much came to the realization through this conversation that this season, you honestly don't really need to watch season 2 before watching the season, because nearly every element of season 2 is retconned here. They don't
different.
Yeah, it's not completely retcon. Like they still recognize it, but nothing that really leads into season 2 leads into this season, aside from like EJ and Gina dating, which you can just kind of like infer that they liked each other and they started dating. You really don't need to watch season 2 before watching this season, because right in the beginning of this season with Lily and Ricky, who was very unsure what they were going to do with them. I thought we were going to get you can watch back our season 2 review. I thought they were going to do flashbacks to season 2 or something, where they explain the whole harness thing. No, they just do away with her immediately. So Lily he breaks up with her. He gets sick of her. And this is how Ricky gets to Camp Shallow Lake. And I thought this was the right decision. I felt like they really wrote themselves into a corner last season when it came to Lily. I think there was more they wanted to do with her character.
Things. They just weren't shown much, and they just didn't really have much of a relationship.
Yeah, it didn't really work, especially because she did that whole harness thing last season where she cuts his harness and they make a big deal out of it. And then the next episode, it's oh, we're gonna redeem her now. It just didn't really work. It felt like this was a character that they wanted to do a lot more with. And so they realized that she's not really someone that we have anything left. We can't really do anything more with her. We've kind of ruined this character. So they just kind of dispose of her immediately. I will say, I think it was kind of lazily done the way they did it, where they do just kind of get rid of her and we don't really see her for the rest of the season. But I would rather them get rid of something that's not really working than continue it and just continue to make it worse, because I think it was right to get rid of Lily, because I don't really think she fit into this season at all.
Not really.
Yeah, so this is how Ricky kind of gets into Camp Shallow Lake. Meanwhile, all the other characters, they're kind of going here because this is something that has always, been a part of EJ's summer. He goes here pretty much every summer. He wants everybody else to kind of experience it. When you rewatch the first episode, they mention they do give a reason why everyone's not there. Big Red is busy with his job. Seb, I believe Carlos said, was like busy with something. I don't remember what it was. And then Nini is off in California, and so that's why we only have these characters this season. I thought that was a good way to get us into.
But also, like, Olivia was just busy with her like tour and stuff at the time.
No, I'm talking about the reasoning why the characters are not on the show, not why the actors aren't on the show.
Well, yeah.
They say that pretty much immediately. But so most of the season focuses around these characters, them going to Camp Shallow Lake, and they're told very early on that, obviously this is like a theater camp of sorts. They are putting on a production of Frozen, which I thought was a really fun idea. Obviously, they just did Beauty and the Beast. I guess they're just always going to do Disney properties. But I thought what they did with Frozen this season worked really well. Last season, I thought that they didn't do enough with Beauty and the Beast. I think they definitely did enough with Frozen this season. They recognize that the entire season doesn't have to be about them putting on the show. But they still incorporate it pretty nicely. It didn't feel like there was more they could have done with them putting on Frozen. So that was something that I thought they immediately did better this season.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done, and they did a lot with it. And like, I just thought, like, obviously I really like Beauty and the Beast, but yeah, they didn't really do a ton with it, in my opinion. Like,
no,
besides like some of the songs, but they did like an amazing job here.
Yeah, like for example, Love is an Open Door. They recreate the whole sequence from the movie, which I thought was really cool. They do a lot when it comes to the songs that we love from Frozen. I just thought that they just incorporated a lot better this season.
I will say I was like hoping for a cover of Fixer Upper.
That would have been interesting. I don't think they could have fit it into this season. That they only had 8 episodes.
It would have been just like a fun one, I think.
Yeah, that could have been fun to see.
Or like a bonus song or something.
Yeah. But with that said, we are going to talk about the individual plot lines here, starting off with Ricky and Gina. So their whole story this season, I thought worked really well. I've heard some people complain that, everyone's beating down on EJ too much. He's just trying to be a good guy. But I thought it worked for his character. His character constantly, I think his entire arc of this season is recognizing that he doesn't really fit into this anymore. He is trying to still be this, he's still trying to relive those days of being a kid at camp and, trying to enjoy those last few moments of being in high school and things like that. But he's kind of coming to the realization that that's not really who he is anymore. He is the director of this show now, and that kind of takes on a whole different light. He is, you see Val, who is also a counselor now, and these two have been friends for quite a bit. And they kind of hint at like a romance there, but I'm glad they didn't actually go there because I think that would have really like overcome.
They may have had like some kind of fling, but who knows?
Yeah, I'm glad that they didn't really do much with that because I think it would have really overcomplicated things.
I feel like that would just be a little too messy.
Yeah, it's just like unnecessary drama that we didn't
like. I really enjoyed their friendship though.
Yeah, I enjoyed their friendship a lot. And the whole story of, EJ kind of, realizing that he needed, to be a director, but him not knowing if he could fit into that position, when he reaches out to like Miss Jen in episode 6 and things like that. I just really liked what they did with his character, but he is very much preoccupied by a lot of things as a result. And because of that, him and Gina's relationship are kind of on the back burner. These two, they're in a relationship, but they don't really get to be in a relationship. Gina, and I think what they did a really good job with this season to show that these two are just in very different places in their lives. Gina's in a place now where she gets to be the lead. She has it all pretty much. She has a very close circle of friends. She does end up getting Anna within the musical, which I thought made sense for her. which obviously is a big upgrade compared to the other musicals that they've done.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, she gets that role. She's with EJ now. She pretty much does have it all. Yet they really aren't able to pursue that relationship. They really aren't able to spend much time together. And so I did think it made sense for them to ultimately break up. In episode 7. It was very sad to see the way it happened, obviously, but I thought it made sense. I thought that, they kind of recognize that these are two people who they're in different places in their lives. They're not able to connect in the way that they thought they would. And I thought it was very like realistically handled in that way. They broke up amicably. This wasn't done in a way where, something terrible happened and it broke them up. No, they just kind of, Gina realizes that this just isn't really going to work. And I liked the way that whole thing played out.
I did too. I thought it was really written well and it was well done.
Yeah, so I didn't really have too many complaints. The one thing I will say with EJ that I hope we get more of next season is him and his father's very contentious relationship. You get a hint of it. We've gotten hints of it before, but his father is obviously very disapproving of him. He doesn't want to be, he doesn't want the sports scholarship anymore. He seems like he's going in a much different direction. I feel like they're going to do a lot more with this character moving forward. I don't think that just because he's graduated from East High, I think we're still going to see EJ next season. I think there's more they need to do with him. There's some closure that his character needs to have, I think, before the show does end up wrapping up. So I don't think this is going to be the last we see of him at all.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more that needs to be done with his character. But that's really what's going on with those two this season. Talking about Courtney, like I said, I really liked what they did with her this season. Her entire season pretty much is her, she is cast as Elsa, but she has this like crippling anxiety throughout it.
Yeah, really is just struggling with it.
Yeah, it's really bottling up inside of her. There's a really great scene where she like reaches out to her mom and like tries to do what she can to deal with that anxiety. But she also is struggling with, having all these other responsibilities. There's this rock that she has to climb. That's like a tradition in the camp that she's very fearful of. And Courtney really does kind of like come out of her shell this season and really kind of challenges herself. And I thought this was a really good arc for her character. She's grown a lot within these last 3 seasons, starting off with accidentally being the understudy in High School Musical to now having the role of Elsa. Courtney really has grown into a main, one of the main leads of this show. And I thought that she got a really big upgrade this season. I really liked what they ended up doing with her.
I think so too. And it was just a very important storyline as well.
Yeah, it was very well handled. I especially like the scene where she is talking to the younger actress that's going to play her, and they kind of bond over having anxieties and things like that. I think it was just a really good storyline to have, because I think a lot of people have been in that situation before where, you're excited to have this role, but this anxiety is just constantly getting out. You're constantly worried about how this is going to turn out. And I thought they handled that whole storyline very well this season. So I really like what they ended up doing with her. But the other story I want to talk about is our new characters, Maddox and Jet. Like I said, ended up being one of my favorite storylines this season, because when Maddox is introduced,
their storyline's great.
Yeah, I didn't really know how to feel about Maddox at first. She starts off and she is very strict. She has very specific ways she wants to do things. She like takes away all their phones. She wants them to focus just on like camp activities and things like that. She does have a very close friendship with EJ, but we can see that she has a very difficult time connecting with people. And it was at this moment where I started to like her character more. When she has that moment in episode 2, where she kind of has this monologue about, I'm struggling to connect with people and things like that. I thought that they did a better job of writing her character, and especially in episode 3, when Jet comes into the picture, he starts off, like I said, he's very aloof. He doesn't really want much at all to do with this musical. He's kind of just like hiding in the shadows, but Ricky really kind of takes him under his wing. And this is what I thought worked really well with Ricky this season. The friendship between him and Jet, I thought worked really well. It was kind of like
one of the best friendships this season.
It was kind of like a placeholder, because obviously Big Red's not there. That's usually like his main confidant. So it made sense sense to have somebody else for Ricky to talk to.
Yeah.
And I really like the friendship that these two end up developing. You know, Ricky sees this natural talent in Jet he wants him to pursue. And this was a big moment for Ricky as well. Him recognizing, like, I don't need the spotlight all the time. I need to put it on somebody else. He really wants to help Jet in that regard. And we eventually recognize that Maddox and Jet are actually siblings. And I thought this was a great twist. This was a really,
I thought it was really great.
Yeah, this was a great way of getting us to understand both of these characters, the situation they're going through. We eventually come to realize that Maddox had a girlfriend last season, not last season, but last summer. Something ended up happening where they're not really talking anymore, and she kind of blames Jet for it. And at first, I was very worried with how this was going to play out. I was like, oh no, I really hope that Jet didn't like out her or something, because I like this character. I don't want them to go in that direction. I don't think this is the show to handle that kind of thing. I think they're better when they push like positive, positive messages and things like that. I think anything sleazy like that, the show just has never really done a great job with. But thankfully, they didn't go in that direction. It turns out that Jet thought that, she basically what ended up happening was the reason her parents were upset was because they didn't like her texting people after 12 and things like that. Yeah. Jet didn't realize who she was texting, and it kind of got her to break off her relationship with Madison for a bit. And the rest of the season is seeing these two slowly reconnect, start to recognize each other a lot, start to remember the importance of each other. And I really liked what they ended up doing them this season. The scene where they sing "Wouldn't Change a Thing," and it has
that's literally one of my favorites from the season. I listened to it.
And what I liked about that was they completely changed the meaning of that song, because when you think of "Wouldn't Change a Thing," you think of Joe Jonas and Demi Lovato, them, not doing well with their relationship, them having differences in their romantic relationship. Whereas this time now, it's this fun song sung by siblings about how it's we drive each other crazy. Yeah, there are a lot of things that we don't understand about each other, but we wouldn't change a thing. We're bonded for life.
That's one of the best.
We're brother and sister in that way, and that's never going to change. I thought that was just
it's one of the best. They have one of the best developments of the season, and that's just one of the best covers.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite songs of the season. I really liked what they ended up doing with that. Oh, I did also forget to say, the choice to frame this entire season around this documentary that's going to happen, concurrently while they are putting on the production of Frozen was brilliant, because it gives us a way to create conflict within this show. We now have these characters and them kind of starting up this drama, but then them also trying to rile up this drama. The peak of this, when I knew this was a really great season, was episode 5, when they started to create all those fake dramas and things like that. And that's when people start to find out more of what's going on. We find that's, the moment where Ricky finds out that Maddox and Jet are siblings. He's like, wait, they're siblings? That was a really funny moment for me. We also find out that EJ's real name is Elton John, apparently, and people start referring to him as Elton, which I thought was really funny.
Funny.
They just did a really good job, I think, with incorporating the musical and all that stuff into this season. It didn't feel like an afterthought like last season. It just felt it fit in better. It also helped that the documentary actually ends up happening and they don't destroy it at the end. I thought that was going to happen. I was like, you better not destroy this at the end. But I'm glad that did not happen, because it definitely felt like, this meant something. This wasn't just pointless, like last season. So that definitely did help out quite a bit. So like I said, a lot of the character storylines I liked a lot this season. Then there's Ashlyn, and I will be honest with you. When they started off with Ashlyn this season, I couldn't really tell what they were doing with her. It felt like she was just a little bit out of character. She starts off and, she is delegated from the main lead to the ensemble. And you can see at first she's kind of upset about this. And I didn't really like
she's
this
very upset and sad.
Ashlyn doesn't strike me as someone who, is going to, get upset over these things and get jealous and things like that. She seems like someone who's going to hype her friends up. And it just didn't really feel like it fit in line with her character. But then as the season progressed, I started to realize what they were doing with her. It took me until, I want to say, episode 6 to really recognize, oh, that's what they're trying to do with Ashlyn, where the entire season pretty much is her kind of going on this journey of self-discovery. She starts to realize a lot more about herself, embracing the fact that she doesn't always have to be like the main lead and things like that. She becomes a really great friend to like Courtney and Gina and Maddox and things like that. But the biggest development of all is her having this crush on Val. I thought they handled this perfectly. Because the way this starts off,
finding herself.
Yeah, the way this starts off, it seems like Ashlyn can't stand Val. She's constantly yelling at her. She's constantly, not liking a lot of the things that she's doing. Val's feeling like she's in charge, but it turns out Ashlyn actually has a crush on Val, and this is where she kind of is starting to figure out her sexuality a bit. And though she doesn't come to terms with it this season, I really like that she kind of, recognized that, hey, I like her and that's okay. I thought that was a really good story for her this season. It was something different that we hadn't seen her character touch upon before. And it was unexpected, but I thought it worked for Ashlyn as a character, her going through this journey of learning more about herself. I think that's something we're going to see more of in season 4. I think there's definitely going to be more that's touched upon there. So I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see more of what they do with her moving forward, because like I said, this was a storyline I wasn't sure how to feel about it first, but by the end I was like, this is actually really interesting. I really like this a lot.
Yeah. Like, it was kind of brilliant in the way they did that.
Yeah, it was a very unexpected storyline for her, but I thought it played out very well with the way they end up handling it. So those are all the main storylines this season that are going on with these characters. But of course, there is one more storyline to talk about, and that's Nene. Nene is really one of my only real flaws with this season, but it also is kind of unavoidable. The problem I have with her storyline, because we start off the first 2 episodes and Nene is still very prominent in the show. When we're at Camp Shallow Lake, we are also cutting back to Nene in California, her becoming more of a songwriter, but also discovering some secrets about her parents. She finds out Jesse Tyler Ferguson's character is actually her biological father, and she kind of connects with him in that way. She didn't know about this and things like that, and they kind of start to have this bond, and he kind of encourages her to just kind of go for it, that she has something within her. She needs to pursue her talent in that way. And I thought this was a really good storyline for Nene, and then they just cut it off and we don't see her again until the finale. And I had a big problem with this at first. I was like, are they just never going to come back to this? Is that all we're going to get? When Nene,
they could have done a lot with it.
She has this great song in episode 2 that I liked a lot, called "You Never Know."
That's honestly like one of the best songs of the entire show.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the best songs that she's done, for sure. But I was like, are we ever going to come back to this? And then I come to find out this isn't really something that they could have fixed, because they apparently only were able to get, like, I think they said like 20 minutes of screen time from her altogether, just because like she was heading onto her tour. So she literally shot this like right before she went on tour. And you come to realize, oh, this is a farewell season to Nene. This entire season is basically saying goodbye to her character for the time being. And I thought it made a lot of sense to do that. I think that rather than write themselves into a corner with a character that they can't do much with, it made sense for them to recognize, yeah, we need to kind of write this character off for a bit. Maybe she'll come back at some point. I do think, though, the way this plays out, at least in the finale, felt pretty final to me. It felt like this is
I will
probably going to
say,
be the last we see of her for a bit.
I feel like since this was like Olivia's main start to her career, big start. I feel like with my opinion, I feel like she could come back for the second half of senior year.
Interesting. Why do you think the second half?
Like, because you know how she's basically spoilers. She's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go
You say
out.
spoilers, but the entire video is spoilers.
Like she says in that like note to Miss Jen that she's gonna go out west.
Yeah.
But I feel like I feel like with what I feel like it could be is where she'll be like, I miss East High. I want to go and finish senior year with them, and then she ends up.
I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't like that.
Like, I can feel her surprising them.
I see. I think what they should do is if they do bring her back, it should just be like the finale. Like, I think it should be the last episode of the show. You get Nene back for that. She was an essential part of the show from that, you know, in the beginning. You bring her back for the finale. I think if they were to have her back, like after making such a big decision like that, it would feel like a slap in the face to that character. I wouldn't like that at all. I like the fact that by the end of this season, Nene kind of recognizes that, yeah, East High isn't really my home anymore. East High isn't really for me. I need to venture out and do my own thing. I need to pursue my career, and I'm okay with that. I thought that was a really good story for her because she kind of almost did that in season 2, where she was going to go off to Yak, but then came back to East High because she felt that, you know, she didn't like the way that Yak was going. Whereas this season, it's the opposite. She realizes, no, I'm going by my, you know, going away from East High. I'm okay with it. She's come to peace with it at this point. I thought it was a really good moment for her character to decide to go out west and things like that. And I think if they were to, I think if they were to like, I think if they were to suddenly just like reverse that, I don't think it would work for her character. I thought it made sense to get her to a place where she's okay with that. Because it just made sense. Because her entire character for the last 2 seasons has been her growing more independent, and I like that she makes that decision to become more independent here.
I do too.
When it comes to what they did with her in the finale, I mean, they did what they could with her. You know, we have a really nice moment with Courtney where they talk.
Oh, I love that moment.
Yeah, which made sense. That friendship has always been an essential part of the show. Yeah. Obviously, I would have loved to see Nene interact with some of the other characters, but I understand that they could only use Olivia Rodrigo for the time that they could. They couldn't really do too much with her. I think Tim Federele said, like,
I kind of feel like it would have been cute if she also performed like a song.
Yeah, but they only had like so much. That problem is they only had so much time with her. Like she didn't have, like they didn't have time.
It was just like that season was just bad timing for her.
It wasn't bad timing. If it was bad timing, she wouldn't. It was. I don't think. No, it wasn't bad timing. It was that they could only use her for a little bit. Like they shot all of her stuff before everything else.
I know.
Shot her stuff. She went on tour, and then that was it. And that's pretty much their way of writing her out of the show for now. So I thought it was a smart decision to cap that off for right now. Obviously, they can always come back to it at some point. But me personally, I don't think they should. I think you should bring this character back organically. And I think the only way to do that is to like have her come back for like a performance of the musical or something like that. Because Nene would naturally do that. I think if she was to just like come back and be like, surprise, I'm going to finish out East High, it would be like, really? This feels like this just feels like we're reverting the character back to where she was, and then we have to do the whole arc again of her just learning to be independent. I wouldn't really like that. So I'm fine with them doing what they did with her, but a part of me does wish that they would have given a little bit more to that character overall. But obviously there wasn't, again, it's kind of unavoidable. There wasn't really much that they could have done. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about Nene this season. I like what they ultimately did with her. I like where she gave them all like different cards and things like that. Ricky wasn't sure if he got his at first and then realizes that she gave him the last thing within his bucket list, which that was a really fun element as well. Ricky having this like bucket list of the summer.
I love that, honestly.
Yeah, that was really fun.
That was a great little thing.
Yeah, it was fun the way that played out. Nice little recurring thing right there. As far as everything else goes going into the finale, I think this is easily the best finale that they have done. I really, I feel like, especially compared to the last finale, it felt almost like they listened to me. Like they watched our review of season 2 and they heard our complaints and they did the complete opposite in this finale. This was every bit.
It was like definitely the best episode of the series.
possibly of the entire show. I think that this episode just did everything right for me. You get some really great character moments, whether it's the smaller moments with us seeing the younger versions of the actors that are playing younger Anna, younger Elsa, and kind of seeing their whole thing, which that is a complaint this season. I wish we saw more of those two characters because we don't really know them aside from they just played the younger versions of Anna and Elsa. We don't really know them aside from that.
Yeah, they're just kind of there.
Yeah, like when she's singing "This Is Me," I'm like, "Who is this?" So, like, I was very.
It was a nice moment, but like we don't.
Really it was. I liked it a lot. I was just kind of like, I wish we got more for this character. I love the moment where Val is talking to Gina and talking to her about growing up and things like that. I thought that was like a really nice moment between them. Really with Val and EJ, where EJ finally decides, like, I'm just gonna go ahead and call my dad. I'm gonna tell him that where I am, and his dad is not willing to listen at this point. So I think that's another thing that we're gonna see more of. I thought the way they incorporated Big Red into this finale was perfect.
Yes.
It made sense that he would be there. Obviously, he's Ashlyn's boyfriend. He would be there to support her. He's there to also celebrate Ricky's birthday. So it made sense to have Big Red here. But we also get this revelation with Big Red that he is also kind of been discovering himself a little bit more. And I like the moment where he tells Ashlyn, look, when I've been at the the restaurant and things like that the entire summer, I've kind of been thinking about things. And I think Ashlyn knew what he was talking about. Like a lot of people said the moment where Big Red's like, I'm Big Red, I'm Ashlyn's boyfriend, and I'm bi. That's her discovering that he's bi. No, I think she already knew through that conversation.
I think so too.
I think this adds a whole new element to their relationship. They both are discovering things about themselves that they didn't before. And I think it's going to make that relationship that much more effective.
That relationship's going to be very, even stronger.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of that next season. I'm excited to see what they do with both of those characters. But we also get to see a lot more of Frozen the musical. We don't just get 2 little performances and then they cut it off. No, we get to see Courtney perform Let It Go. And what an amazing scene that was, where she almost chokes up because you have, what the hell is his name? The guy who's trying to like ruin the show. He's trying to like ruin the show for like drama and things like that. Like he turns the lights off and Courtney almost chokes up, but then she ends up singing through it. It was a really great moment for that character. Really satisfying way really satisfying way to pay off that arc. You have Ricky and him singing as Kristoff, and you don't know if he's singing to Nini or to Gina, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. Obviously,
I feel like with that, I feel like he likes Gina, but I also feel like he's always going to have a feeling for Nini.
Yeah, I think they're always going to have that bond. But I do think, obviously, where this season goes, that he probably likes Gina more. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. So we have that moment, which I really liked. You have Carlos singing in Summer. Just a really great finale all around. I loved, and you even get really great moments like Miss Jen brings up earlier in the season that like, oh, Corbin's going to recognize me. We did High School Musical together. And the second he sees her, this completely turns Corbin Bleu around. And you see throughout the episode, I really liked what they did with him. Because like I said, I think they used him just enough this season. He starts off, he's very selfish. He's all about the drama. He just wants to make this as chaotic as possible.
I think they made it how they made him cocky and selfish. I find it really funny.
Yeah, it was really funny. But as he gets to know these characters, he generally starts to care about them. When Gina's talking to him about how, she's not sure if she's going to be able to perform as Anna and things like that, he's kind of helping her through that. When he realizes what his editor is up to, he doesn't like any of that. He starts to actually get into the show. He starts to recognize, their talents. And the moment where Miss Jen is there and he recognizes her, and we see that he actually utters, you know, the "What Team Wildcats" chant, which they've been wanting him to do all season. It's a very small thing, but it was a great payoff because they hinted it so much throughout the season. There are so many moments this season where they're trying to get him to do that, and he's like, no, 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 I don't do that anymore. But he finally gave in, and stuff like that I thought was just so utterly satisfying. Every Day is my favorite song from High School Musical too. So obviously that was going to always be a highlight for me. I love getting to see all of them sing it. And it almost felt like to me, like this is the start of like the next generation of the show. This is what the show is going to be.
Is it the start of something new?
Kind of, yeah, I guess. I thought it was a good way to kind of ease us into the next phase of the show. And then the way that they end this season, I thought was brilliant. They show this trailer for the documentary, which was still edited by the same guy. But
very juicy.
There's a lot of juicy drama that comes out here. In addition to what I said about Big Red and us finding out that he's bi, which I thought was a really good revelation for that character. We also find out that Jet apparently has feelings for Courtney, so we might explore that a little bit more. I'm excited to see where they're going to go with that, and that kind of creates some.
I hope they bring Maddox and Jet back for the next season.
Oh, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. Tim Federele said like the people we introduced this season are going to be a part of next season, and
okay, good.
Actually, if you watch the performance they did, like for the like Disney Plus day, at like D23, like Maddox and Jet are there. Even the younger actresses are there, the ones that played like younger Anna, younger Elsa. So it seems like they're going to be a part of the show as well. So they're going to keep these actors on. I don't know if Val's going to still be there, but like Maddox and Jet are definitely going to be mainstays, which is great. Yeah, so I'm excited to see what they do with that. And then, of course, the biggest revelation of all is they edit something in such a way to where they make it seem like, you know, Gina was talking about how she had things on her mind this summer. They make it seem like she was talking about Ricky. She was not talking about Ricky, but they edited in such a way to where she was. And you think EJ is going to get really angry about this, but I thought it was a really great moment of restraint where EJ is kind of okay with it. He recognizes that he doesn't need to be involved in this drama. He decides to let, he says that he could never get mad at Ricky because Ricky and him are like brothers and things like that. I thought it was a really, really nice moment for him. But then, of course, comes the big revelation where we find out early on in the season that Ricky actually does have pretty big feelings for Gina. And I know people have hinted that throughout the show. I've always said I thought that they were possibly setting that up, but I didn't really know if they were actually going to get there. This season, we finally start to explore that a little bit more. He's always had feelings for Gina. And they really start to develop more within this season. There's a moment in the penultimate episode where he's about to tell her his feelings, but then it doesn't work out. But then this finale, they talk things out, and Gina basically says that like he's never been a maybe, he's always been a yes. And they seem like they're gonna be together now. And I'm excited to see what they do with these two. I think they've done honestly a really good job of building this relationship, going all the way back to season one.
Like the development is really creative.
Well, I wouldn't say creative. I think just well written.
And that too.
Anything necessarily creative about it. It's just developing a relationship between characters. But
I like what they did.
I do think it has been very well written all the way from the beginning, where you see that mutual bond that the two of them have, with both of them having these broken families. You've always, these two have always understood each other in that way. They've always had that connection. So I thought it made sense to finally get these two together. It felt earned. It felt like these two characters have gotten to a place where they understand each other the most. And it didn't feel forced, because throughout season 3, there are so many moments where Ricky is the one consoling Gina. Gina needs EJ to be there for her. He's not there for her because he's off doing something else, whereas Ricky is there for her. And you get those really great moments between these characters. And I thought it was a really satisfying payoff, and heading into what I think might be the final season of the show. I think season 4 They haven't announced it, but I mean, think about it. The season 4, they're doing High School Musical 3. They're bringing back OGs from,
and it's like their senior year too.
Yeah, well, apparently it's only Courtney and Ricky's senior year, but I guess we'll see if they change that. I don't know. I read something about that.
Unless like the people who graduated are going to go to college in the season 5, maybe, and then like the rest.
I don't know. I do not want College School Musical, the series. I don't need to see that.
That would only be for the people who graduated.
I just feel like where do you go from there? It's like that is like the biggest that is like the that is like the pinnacle of what you've been building up to. Where do you even go after that? So I feel like season 4 might end up being their last season. They haven't announced it yet, but I feel like that might be the case. It'd be
cool if they had like maybe a movie after or something.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see if that happens. But either way, I feel way better about this show than I really did. I want to say a season ago, I was very unsure if I liked the directions they were going, but I really like what they ended up doing this season. I think, we already touched upon the comedy. The comedy was just a lot more consistent this season. There were a lot of
I love the comedy. I thought it was
really funny moments. As far as the musical numbers go, something interesting I thought about this season is they don't just incorporate songs from Frozen. Because it's summer, they also do a bunch of songs from Camp Rock. And some songs from High School Musical 2.
I think it was just Camp Rock 2. Right?
No, because they did Start the Party.
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah, they did a mashup of What Time Is It and Start the Party. So
I mean, yeah, but they didn't sing much of it.
It was mostly Camp Rock 2, though.
Yeah, it was in that it was the majority of the song was What Time Is It, but they had like Start the Party in there.
Yeah, so I thought it was cool the way they incorporated those songs, and then the original songs this season. Some of them I didn't think were the strongest, but there were some that I really liked.
I thought they were amazing. I loved Olivia's and I loved Julia's.
Yeah, I loved. I love the one that Courtney does. Here I Come in the penultimate episode. Different Way to Dance is definitely one of my favorites of the season. It's corny as hell, but I liked it a lot.
And also Joshua Bassett's was good too.
Oh yeah. I thought that his was okay.
It wasn't as strong as the other ones, but I still liked it.
Yeah, his song was okay. But overall, I thought all the musical numbers were really good this season. I didn't think that there were too many of them or anything like that. I thought they used them just enough. Also, something that we didn't touch upon yet, this season is only 8 episodes long, and I actually think it was to the show's benefit. I like what
they did with it.
Through them having 8 episodes, they don't really have a lot of time for filler. They are able to kind of get us into the plot pretty quickly. And with having a smaller ensemble and things like that, it never really felt like anything was like too rushed or they were, getting into story or they were like abandoning storylines and things like that. They really did do a good job, I think, of just having a consistent through line the entire season and paying it off by the end. And while that seems like, very obvious thing to do, I thought that they just did a really good job with it this season. The intrigue they built with the documentary, how is that going to go? Everything they build around Frozen, how these characters are affected by everything. The storyline they did with Ashlyn this season, I wasn't sure how to feel about it first, but I really liked it. The inclusions of Jet and Maddox add this really interesting bond to the show that I really enjoyed quite a bit. Even characters like Ricky, they had a much better idea of what to do with him this season. And while, there are some characters that they don't show a lot of, I think they still did enough with them. Seb is only in 1 episode this season. I think that was enough for him. We got the relation with him and Carlos. We saw him being that supportive boyfriend, sometimes being a bit dim-witted. But I thought that he was a lot of fun to watch. Miss Jen appears sporadically throughout the season. But she's still she's still a part of it. Nene is only in 3 episodes, but she's still a part of it. Nothing this season felt like they were just writing it as they went along. Everything felt intentional. It felt like they went to the season having a clear idea of what they want to do. And as a result, I think it just really ended up working out a lot better for them. Even introducing a lot of new characters, I think most of them did fit in very nicely. There are some characters I wish we could have seen a bit more of.
I wish we got to see more of Madison.
Yeah, I think we will. I think we will. Especially because it seems like,
Yeah.
the way they end things off, it seems like her and Maddox are going to try to like reconnect in that way.
I
So I
can
think
see
we probably are going to see more for at least a couple more times. I don't think she's going to be like a big part because JoJo Siwa is quite busy.
well,
But
yeah.
I do think we are going to see more of her for sure.
At
But
least in like 1 or 2 episodes.
yeah, I do wish we got a little bit more with some of the other characters, namely the 2 younger campers that are in this season. I just wish we got more with them.
Yeah, I
And
wish
I
we
do
just
think,
got, like, no, I wish we got to know more about them.
yeah, and I do think there are some threads that could have paid off a little bit better. But honestly, with the way things wrapped up, I was very happy with the way this season did play out. I really think the show, they have remembered what really worked within season 1, and they even enhanced it within this season. This is season 1, but an even better version of it. They
Yes.
focus on the characters. They find new and interesting things to do with them. And I think moving forward, I feel very good about the future of the show, much better than I did when it came to the end of last season. So overall, for me, this was easily the strongest season of the show so far. And I am going to give it an A-.
I'm also going to give it an A-. Because there's only a few things that need improvements from this one, but other than that, it was a very strong season.
Yes, definitely. I'm really excited for next season. I just hope my only fear next season, just to play devil's advocate a bit, I just hope next season doesn't become like, let's just focus on the OGs. Like, I hope we can still focus.
I mean, I don't think so. I think they're just kind of like guest stars and stuff.
Well, I think they're going to be a pretty big part considering what the plot of the season is.
I mean, yeah.
I'm
hoping they bring Zach, Vanessa, and Ashley.
I think if they do, it's probably going to be like kind of limited. Like, I don't think they're going to be in it all that much because it's probably going to be hard to get them.
I know it's hard to get Zach for sure because he's also super busy, but Vanessa and Ashley, I think so, because Vanessa and Ashley are
like Monique Coleman, Corbin Bleu, Lucas Graybiel. They don't have anything going on, so it's easy to get them.
And then Bart Johnson.
Yeah, Bart Johnson, I don't think there's anything going on.
And then
they're even bringing back Miss Darbus next season, which is really cool. So
yeah, I mean, Zach is super busy. Ashley and Vanessa are too, but like, they're definitely like easy to get because I know they even still bring up High School Musical a lot for things.
Yeah, and I mean, one of my favorite parts of the show has always been like the meta-ness of it all. And I think that they're just going to double down on it more next season. It's going to be so fun to watch. Season 1, the meta of everything was just a lot of fun. So I'm excited to see what they do with season 4.
I mean, it would be, it'd be really cool too, because how like this show originally started with like Nene and Ricky as like a Troyella. I feel like those 4, if they're all back, I feel like it'd be cool if they had like a song, all 4 of them.
That'd be interesting. Like I said, I think the only way they get Nene back is like the last episode. I don't think that
we'll see.
I don't think they make her like a main part of the show anymore. I think they kind of wrote her off in this season, which I think was the right choice. But is there anything else you want to say about the season before we wrap things up here?
Basically we covered everything, but like I love the season and I kind of want to like rewatch the whole series again.
Well, I don't really want to rewatch season 2, but this season
I just want to rewatch it again before season 4 and everything, and like that, just because like it's been a while since I watched season 1, and I want to rewatch season 2 a bit as well, and then season 3 is just so good. But
I'm very excited to see how season 4 goes. There's a lot of potential for sure.
Yes, me too.
We will see how that does end up wrapping up. And Corbin Bleu is also going to be back because they already confirmed that he'll be back. So hopefully he'll play a more major role on the show because I really like him being like this mentor of sorts.
Me too. He was really good.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Who knows? Are they going to bring back Jason Earls for a bigger role?
Probably not. He's part of the camp. They're not going back to the camp.
Yeah.
So other than that though, guys, that's it for our review of High School Musical, the musical, the series, season 3. As always, comment down below, let us know what you guys thought of this season. Would love to hear your thoughts on all of that. And that's really it for this video. We do have a couple more things to plug, I think, before we wrap this up here. We did do a review for Claim to Fame, the last 2 episodes. that should have
Stay
been
tuned for
uploaded
that.
right before this, but if you haven't checked it out, I do recommend doing so. Very overlooked show, I think, and I'm
Very.
excited to hopefully see where else that show does go within future seasons. I talked about this in Claim to Fame as well. We are going to do an overview of Big Brother 24, but obviously just to make sure the video isn't like 2 to 3 hours long, I did find a way to condense it.
Shorten it a bit.
Yeah, I did find a way to condense it that I do think will still give us a way to cover everything that happened this season, but do it in more like a bite-sized format. So I'm excited to see how that ends up going.
And then we're also stay tuned for our season review of PLL Original Sin.
Yes, that is another show we're covering because she forced me to watch the whole thing. So,
well, no, I would never force anyone. We both wanted to watch it.
Well, I didn't really, but
and then, well, you kind of did because you watched the original.
I mean, yeah, but I kind of hated the original by the time it ended.
I mean, the last season isn't good.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone liked the last season. Not even me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still watched because I thought it'd be fun.
We are also going to cover
stay tuned for Survivor.
Yes.
We are going to be covering the first 2 episodes later on.
Yes, we have our good friend Julia Rowe coming on. Always enjoy having her on. Org legend. We love getting to hear her insight on Survivor and all the stuff like that. So we're excited for that to happen. But other than that, I think that's all we really do need to plug. That's really it for this video. We will see you guys later on. And remember, couples who podcast together, stay together. See you guys later.
Have a good night, guys.